You might think of gold when someone says safe haven asset, something investors flock to when markets get shaky. But something interesting is happening right now. Even Wall Street is starting to put silver in that same category. That's a big shift, and it tells us a lot about what's going on in global markets today. Silver has already been on a tear. In 2025, prices more than doubled, making it one of the best performing commodities of the year, outpacing not just traditional metals, but almost every other asset class. It reached record prices near $70 an ounce, levels we haven't seen before. This isn't a short-term blip. It is part of a broader narrative where precious metals are reclaiming their role as financial hedges in a world that feels increasingly unpredictable. So why would Wall Street, typically focused on stocks, bonds, and tech beats, suddenly care about silver as a safe haven? To answer that, we need to understand what's driving markets today. First, there's macroeconomic uncertainty. Investors are watching the Federal Reserve very closely. The market is pricing in multiple rate cuts in 2026, which tends to weaken the US dollar and reduce real yields on bonds. That dynamic makes non-yielding assets like precious metals more attractive as stores of value. In other words, when cash and bonds aren't paying much, metals suddenly look a lot more appealing. Then there's geopolitical tension. Events around the world, from trade disputes to conflicts, are reminding investors that risk can escalate fast. Historically, precious metals like gold have benefited from that kind of uncertainty, but silver is now catching that same safe haven narrative. Its price sensitivity to fear and risk aversion is higher precisely because it is smaller and more volatile than gold. And volatility often attracts traders during turbulent times. But there's another twist that makes silver really interesting. Unlike gold, silver is not just a store of value. It's also a critical industrial metal. It's essential in solar panels, electric vehicles, data centers, and electronics. That means its demand doesn't just rise when markets feel shaky. It also grows with real economic expansion. That unique dual role, both investment and industrial demand, is why some analysts now see silver as a broader strategic asset, not just a monetary hedge. Wall Street's commentary isn't just theoretical opinion. When major strategists start publicly recognizing silver alongside gold as a safe haven, it signals a change in institutional thinking. For years, investors accepted gold as the primary crisis hedge and viewed silver more as an industrial commodity with a speculative edge. But now, even seasoned analysts are acknowledging silver's monetary characteristics because its price behavior in recent months mirrors what you'd expect from a defensive asset class, rising during market stress and when real yields fall. This doesn't mean silver is always a perfect safe haven. Historically, it is less reliable than gold during extreme turmoil because its industrial demand ties it to economic cycles more tightly. It can outperform in certain risk-off periods, but in others, it can underperform if industrial sentiment weakens. That's why some research points out that silver's role as a safe haven is context-dependent. It performs best when both uncertainty and demand coexist. Right now, those conditions seem to be in place. Geopolitical risk is elevated, real yields are near lows, the dollar is under pressure, and market volatility is prompting investors to rethink their defensive allocations. Add to that silver's limited physical supply and growing interest from institutional funds, including rumor and reporting of big players seeking physical delivery, and you have a framework where silver starts looking less like a niche commodity and more like a mainstream hedge asset. Let's contrast that with traditional safe haven thinking. Usually when markets get nervous, investors move into gold first, then bonds, then other liquid defensive assets. Silver historically only becomes relevant once gold moves significantly, or if inflationary pressures are high. But in 2025 and now going into 2026, silver's move wasn't just a knock-on effect from gold's rally. It was a parallel rally driven by both fear and fundamentals. That's what's capturing Wall Street's attention. Now, is silver a better safe haven than gold? Not necessarily. Gold still has deeper liquidity, wider institutional backing, and a longer track record as a crisis hedge. But silver's dual identity, defensiveness plus industrial demand, gives it a unique advantage in certain market environments, especially in a period where both growth and fear coexist. So what could this mean going forward? If the macro environment stays choppy, if rate cuts actually materialize and geopolitical risks persist, institutional demand for safe assets could grow further. Silver could continue to attract flows not just from speculative traders, but from serious institutional portfolios seeking diversification and defense. That's a shift from the last decade, and it's not trivial. However, this recognition also brings risks. When Wall Street becomes crowded, any change in narrative, a stronger dollar, hawkish central bank action, or dramatic improvement in risk sentiment, could trigger sharp sell-offs. Silver's volatility works both ways. That's why investors need to understand both sides of the safe haven story, not just the bullish thesis. In short, silver's rally isn't just about price momentum. It is about perception shifting, from industrial metal to strategic hedge asset in the eyes of big market players. When institutions start talking about a commodity like a currency hedge, markets listen. And that's why even Wall Street starting to recognize silver as a safe haven matters, because it reflects a broader change in how capital is being allocated in response to global risks and macro uncertainty. Whether you view this as a long-term structural shift or a cyclical phenomenon, it's a trend worth paying attention to, because it's reshaping how silver fits into portfolios today.